us. Mark in Lansing, Michigan. Which non-conference game feels like a setup for the college football rematch later on? I feel like it's Texas and Michigan in week 2. So, sorry about that. That is definitely not the one that we're supposed to click on. So for me, when I look at these matchups, Clemson versus Georgia week 1 feels like one that maybe is a playoff game. I think NC State, Tennessee is a sleeper game that maybe ends up being a playoff matchup, especially if Tennessee's offense picks up the pace or if you see the similarities between what I think with NC State. I think that Wisconsin, Alabama, Wisconsin, I think is going to be in the playoff in 2025. I really do. I love Luke Fickell as a coach. I think that Phil Longo is going to get this offense humming. I think that maybe you'll see one of these games with the Florida schools get there. And I do think that the non-conference matchups matter. But I do actually agree with Mark here. I think it's Texas and Michigan. Texas has the pieces to immediately walk into the SEC, show up to the big boy table and go, hey, we're so glad that you welcomed us on it. Texas A&M, Missouri, Ole Miss, whoever else is here, get the hell out. You're going back to the kids' table. We're taking our spot. And everyone's going to look at them and go, well, what do you mean you're taking our spot? What do you mean you're coming on in and just going to be that roster? Oh, I'm that good. I have that type of talent. Oh, and also our recruiting classes are better than yours. We are meant to be here. We're not recruiting at the same level as other Big 12 schools. We're recruiting like an SEC school. But Michigan, everyone wants to go ahead and sleep on this roster. Everybody. Everybody in America does not want to respect where Michigan is right now because they lost their head coach, because they lost their defensive coordinator, because they have to replace their quarterback, because they lost their star running back, because they lost several offensive linemen, because they lost a linebacker, because they lost one of their best defensive players. And they keep losing, but they didn't lose their aura. They didn't lose their mantra. They didn't lose the persona that hails in Ann Arbor. And so when you look at what returns, Sherrone Moore is going from being the offensive coordinator to now the head coach. So now they're just moving other people up. They replaced Jesse Minter with Wink Martindale, which just feels so weird if you're an NFL fan knowing who Wink is. But it's like you're now saying, hey, Mason Graham, we're going to bull rush you as much as humanly possible. Go attack the quarterback and make him pay. That's what you're looking at. Will Johnson still is, in my opinion, the best cornerback in college football going into this year. They have the best tight end in college football in Colson Loveland. They have one of the best running backs in college football in Donovan Edwards, which, again, didn't get the respect he deserved last year because of Blake Corum came back for one final run. And now all you're asking is, who is going to be the quarterback that makes us feel better about our situation? Is it going to be Alex Orji? Is it going to be Warren? Is it going to be somebody else on this team that we haven't talked about enough? Who is it going to be that makes that necessary jump forward to where, yes, we are a roster of potential. We have the ability to be a team that is going to still be in the hunt. Their schedule still is manageable. So saying they're going to miss the playoff, even at 9-3, is baffling. They're going to be a playoff team if they get to 9-3. You're talking about a roster that would have to completely unravel this year. And they didn't lose the aura around the team. They're still the same mantra. When they go to practice, the only difference is that instead of Jim Harbaugh making the calls, it's Sherrone Moore, who was already doing that partially last year. So I don't think that when we talk about Michigan, we have to put them on this pedigree that they're going to just collapse. They're going to be right in the hunt. Absolutely, they're going to be in the hunt. And you know what the crazy part is? Let's just say let's just say Texas loses in the SEC championship game. Maybe it's Alabama, maybe it's Georgia, maybe it's Ole Miss. Well, the only difference between what could happen is this could be a matchup for the first round. But instead of it being played in Ann Arbor, it's going to be a preview of what you're going to see 2 years from now when they meet up in Texas, in Austin. That's the difference between this. Like, honestly, there's not much more you have to say. So I look at these two teams. It's very challenging for me to say that you're not going to potentially see a complete and total revamp of Michigan, because if I think it's basically the same roster minus the pieces that did leave for the NFL. And then on top of that, both these teams can still go to the playoff. And both these teams probably are not going to win the division. And if they don't win their conference, well, then they got to play in the first round. Who's to say that we don't get a matchup of 6 versus 11 and the 6 seed is Texas and the 11 seed is Michigan because they're 9-3? It's possible. It's very possible. So I actually agree with Mark on this one. This to me feels like 100% the matchup that we are going to see once again the postseason. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. That's awesome. Thank you so much. But before you leave, make sure that you hit subscribe. And if you want to check out any of our other great work, make sure you click on one of the videos here. Am I putting it in the right spot? I'm not entirely sure. I'm really not.